Hi all, I have another fascinating game from the anonymous spreadsheet owner who is running constant game tests of Leela and its evolution. Have a look at the pinned comments for the interactive PGN and the link to that spreadsheet. So this is Stockfish 8 against Leela ID 514. Time control 48 seconds with a 0.2 second increment per move. Hardware, Stockfish 8 is playing on a 3.8 gigahertz CPU. Leela is on a GTX 1060 graphics card. So neural networks need graphic cards, basically. D4 from Stockfish 8. Knight f6, c4, b6. This is the end of the book given to both engines. So how do they play this? Well, Stockfish 8 has a tendency to grab space. E4, bishop b7, bishop d3. It seems very sensible. Knight f6, knight c3, d6. Now here with d6, is black going to just play bishop e7? Let's see. Black actually puts the brakes, well, discouraging e5 a little bit here. We have white castling, and now actually g6, so not bishop e7. So we have a double fianchetto. My good friend Paul Georgiou once had a fascinating game against Aaron Sumskull, who was on the way to becoming a grandmaster. But Paul managed to get one game against Aaron in spectacular style with a double fianchetto like this, kind of reverting to a King's Indian style pawn storm. And do we see the same in this game? Let's see, e5. It does have a King's Indian style feel to it now, this structure. This bishop seems a bit weird on b7 for the moment, though. Knight h5, but the bishop's here and not here. Usually in the classical variation, the bishop would be there. But there it does seem to have a perk of discouraging f5. Bishop e3, we have rook c, we have bishop c8. Bishop a4. h6. Yes, it's funny peculiarities of Stockfish to play these kind of, Petrosian style King's Indian positions in such a manner to kind of glare at light squares. And queen d2, king h7, protecting that pawn. b4, this does seem very logical and thematic to play b4. a5, a3, keeping the pawn flexibility with a3. But now f5, with that bishop on a4, it hasn't really totally discouraged f5. And now, again, another Stockfish 8 tendency we've seen is this capture here. Now, structurally, from a long-term perspective, this does seem intuitively like a good attacking g-file. But it's the concrete stuff which traditional engines will only register with, not an abstract notion like this, necessarily, unless it's in the heuristics. So queen d1, but here maybe Stockfish feels it has weakened black's king's position somewhat. We have the move here now, a takes. Not concerned about any tactics at the moment, like knight g5 check. That doesn't seem too dangerous right now. Let's see. I think just taking and then bishop h6 is adequate here. So after a takes b4, we have a takes, and now we have the knights protecting each other in any case now. Bishop d2, we have rook g8, so it does seem like a natural use of a semi-open g-file. This surely can't be the downfall of traditional brute force engines, should we put. It just seems so natural. It just seems so natural. But as humans, we just lose most of the games anyway on technicalities. We keep losing on technicalities, even if we do get good positions against chess engines. That's why grandmasters gave up playing against chess engines a long time back. Anyway, so e4, knight d4. We have bishop h8, knight c6, occupying a light square, but is it of great significance? We have queen e8. So that knight's not really doing anything too deadly, even with the bishop pointing at the queen here indirectly. King h1. We have bishop d7, bishop b3, queen f7, rook g1. This is a little bit awkward. The king's running out of oxygen here, escape squares. And we see rook g6. There might have been another good move here, but I don't want to spoil it for you. But it comes up now in any case. So white hits c7. This seems really quite awkward to defend c7 here. But Leela's got some other interests in the position, not just defending c7. I wonder if you can guess Leela's move if I give you 5 seconds to pause the video. Okay, knight g4. And it's here Stockfish wakes up and smells some of the dangers concretely. So it doesn't happen to be the g-file directly, it's sort of indirectly. This is really dangerous to take. You can see the variations in the pinned comment I'll give you. But let's have a look a little bit here. HG. This wasn't played. Queen e1 was played, just to clarify. But let's have a look at h takes g, accepting this. Rook takes, threatens rook h4 checkmate. So let's say g3, but the key move here would seem to be f4, and it doesn't seem as though white can actually defend this position, whatever white does. Examples: g takes, check. This is a clear example of destruction, checkmating. But what else does white actually do here after f4? If rook c3, this is looking desperate, rook c3, black can just take that, fg, take on g3. This position, there's still menacing threats. For example here, queen f5 threatening queen check and other stuff. That's very desperate, this defensive move. It's just far too strong here. And if that's the best like defensive try, then that's not very good. Yeah. Instead of rook c3 here, sorry, g takes, we've had a look at g takes, rook c3, rook g2 as an example. Black takes on g3. This position is really dangerous because black does use that g-file to pile up on g3. Now with that knight supported with that g-file pressure, then there's queen h5 to h1 potentially in some lines. Well, like this, first, sorry, rook h, more to the point, rook h4 to h1, because the queen's already controlling that escape squares, f2 and f1 escape squares, as well as the knight on f1. So this simply threatens mating on h1, and white would be really desperate in this position. This is a desperate defensive try. So this is just hopeless for white, basically, this position. Black has a big advantage there. So it seems this position, this does seem utterly sound, this knight g4. So Leela's playing like a real King's Engine guru, because usually you do want to get some attacking prospect. You don't mind the queen side falling apart, but there's just no time to really win these pawns. So the immediate threat is knight takes f2. So that's addressed with queen e1, ignoring the knight, taking the knight. But now black just takes on c6, gaining access for bishop e5. This is really vicious move, actually. Bishop takes c6. If bishop e5, then white could at least take that off, but still be worse here. This is still very dangerous if this is like one of the better moves. This is good for black anyway. But no, the most incisive way is to take on c6, to play bishop e5, with the point now being knight takes f2 is on the cards. White played rook f1 to try and address that. I'll give you an example of knight takes f2 now. If bishop c2, just to demonstrate this, knight takes, knight g3 check. Forget about the toying repetition, but here there's e4, which wins the queen basically. So it takes a knight e4 check, discover check, winning the queen. Or if queen takes, well, there's still like a double check and winning the queen. So yeah, this is just totally, and white falls apart after that. So that's really the big threat now. Knight takes f2. So we have rook f1, just piling up. Now rook ag8, bishop d1. If taking, you might be interested in taking here if there's any difference. Rook takes g4 is still really crushing in this position. This is just mega crushing style position. If you look at the attacking prospects, they're gigantic here. Like this position threatens queen g1 checkmating because the bishop's covering the escape square. So if white has to play this, that's all over, because there's desperate moves given now to stave off Queen G1, just to put that on the board. So it's a really crushing attack, as one might expect intuitively from earlier, that semi-open G file, but it's really finding the concrete stuff to really tap into that, which Leela can also do. So Queen E7 was played here. After Bishop D1, we have Rook C3. That's pretty desperate. It's taken, knight takes, and now Queen H4, Knight D5. There's a really nifty threat in this position, actually. If I just give you a token move, so Knight D5 was played with some ideas sometimes of Knight F4. I'll give you a really terrible token move. Black's actually threatening Knight H2 here. This is a real killer. You know, if takes, then check, and then crashing through. What does White actually do after Knight H2? Let's just say Bishop C2, Knight F3, and you can see that this is really good. It's just absolutely murderous. So Knight D5, trying to set up some sort of defensive resource. Knight E5 now is played, so that does unveil Rook takes G2 anyway. We have Bishop takes H5. Now Rook takes G2. It's just actually ignored. This is actually ignored because White might have some resistance with Knight F4. But even this position, believe it or not, even if this position is okay for Black, but it's not as great as what Leela did, which is just play Rook takes G2, threatening Queen takes H3, checkmate. So that's crisp, clinical. Queen E3 does threaten checkmate as well, though. Queen take, as well as defending H3. But Leela's done the damage taking on G2. She's undermined H3, so she actually just retreats the Rook to defend against Queen takes H6 mate. And now, yeah, although the H3 pawn is defended, it just needs Knight F3 here for Queen takes H3. So White's in a bit of a panic here. White plays Bishop F7, but there's still the big threat of Knight F3. For the moment, bit of patience with this move, Rook 8 to G7. If Knight F3 here, even in this line, Black's got a big advantage though, even in this line, believe it or not, even here, because what Black can do is Rook G4, and that F4 defensive knight is eliminated with Black having the advantage again. But this is better. Rook 8 G7, taking some time to do things. Knight F6 check, King H8. This is desperate. Knight takes E4. Black is really just threatening Knight F3 here and Queen takes. This is desperate. Knight takes. Just to put this on the board, why this is so strong. Knight F3 here threatens Queen H3. Checkmate. So White takes on E4, and then Bishop E6 to defend H3. But now just nudging the bishop, asking the bishop to move off that diagonal for a moment. In fact, well, there's other ideas as well here. The bishop didn't move. We have Queen F4 on Bishop D7. In fact, White doesn't need to take the bishop and give a pass pawn or anything. White just plays here Knight F3, and it's not even about Queen H3 now. It's about Rook G1 check, mating with the knight and rook. For example, check Bishop E3, just to put this on the board. Rook G1 is checkmating here. So that knight on F3 is not just interrupting H3, it's also supporting Rook G1 mating patterns. So Queen F4 is a desperate throw of the dice. It's desperate. It's losing. It's absolutely losing because Leela just gets this piece up ending. This position is just hopeless. These games are played to the death, so we see some conversion now of a knight up. The pass pawns are pushed. As you do, push pass pawns. That wins a whole rook here. And yeah, the rest is just technique, as they say. Pretty easy technique, a rook and knight up. Not too drastic. So let's see, Leela just queening that pawn and then going in for the kill. Checkmate. So this is another striking game by the anonymous spreadsheet owner. I have to call him something, Bob. Because should I call him Bob from now on? Okay. But yeah, he's got this fantastic spreadsheet with a lot of data of Leela Chess's evolution. And these games are really, some of them, entertaining. But it should be stressed, at the moment, Stockfish is winning most of the games. But when Leela wins, she wins in style. That's the big difference. Leela's got style. Okay, and this is just so cool. I mean, these are super cool games to me. I mean, I'm really excited. I hope you are about these games. Comments, questions, likes, shares appreciated. Thanks so much.